allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to tonight's meeting. We'll begin by reviewing the draft minutes of our previous meeting held in November. I would make a motion to, to review those minutes, and I see no correction needed. So I make a motion to accept the minutes, the draft minutes with a number second. I'll second. Thanks, Patricia. All in favor?
Aye.
To approve without amendment. We'll review the agenda for tonight's meeting. The Town of Brunswick regular meeting, December 16th, 2024. We'll begin with AJ Signs, 625 Brunswick Road, seeking sign variances. It's a continuation of a public hearing. Followed by Froyo at 502 Pinewoods Avenue, which is an appeal. Followed by Atlas Renewables and Brunswick. Sickaway Solar, Shippey Lane and Brunswick Road, use variances. And lastly, Kiefer at 22 Grange Road, area variance. Is there anyone here for the first application, AJ Signs?
No, I just want to have something to say about it.
Oh, certainly. Okay, so the public hearing is still open, so if you'd like to comment, please, you're welcome to do
Just
so.
have to hear from them.
No, but we will, make notations of remarks that you made.
Like I had said at the last meeting, I was not objectionable.
Sorry, just
Oh, I'm sorry,
address.
Karen Barber. 14 Leonard Avenue. Sorry. Not objectionable to the signs on the building whatsoever. The monument sign was totally objectionable because that was like 8 feet wide, 96 inches. Which the mock-up they had put up was not full mock-up, just so you guys know, it was like 4 feet. But now they're proposing a 30-inch pole pedestal or whatever with the bigger sign, which is better. But, so I did a little visual here. So this is how wide the pole is gonna be, which I think is a little extreme.
So you're saying that's 30 inches?
This is 30 inches, okay? And most of the single poles that I've seen with those signs on the top are usually about 12 inches, which would be this. So I'm thinking that the 30 inches is still gonna be a little obstructable because we have the 2 street signs there, we have the flag pole, we have the telephone pole, and now we're gonna have this pole. So if they could bring it down to being smaller, and I get with their design that they have the street numbers on the pole, which they're going across with. If they could go down with them, they could do the smaller pole. It would be one less obstruction for us. And then I wanted to thank the gentleman at the building department today to let me know that he has addressed the shrubs on the other corner.
Good.
However, they're not responding, so he's gonna have somebody reach out to the highway department because it's a state road. And it is something that needs to happen. But yeah, I'm not opposed to making them like difficult whatsoever. Their business, I get it. But if we can help with some instructions, would be wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Or,
Well said what she said.
okay. Do that. So usually at this point, The board determines whether or not to close the public hearing no other further comment. But since the applicant is not here, I would be hesitant to do that now.
Sure, that's within the board's discretion. You can keep it open until the applicant is available.
Right, so they have the opportunity to hear that comment and respond to that comment. Anyone else have any other differing opinions of that? We keep the public hearing open, presuming that the applicant is not going to show up tonight. I don't, perhaps they're running late, perhaps they're caught in the use of road traffic. So I would propose that we keep it open to our next meeting, which is in January, and that date is January 27th. Because as you recall, that we meet the third Monday of each month, the 21st is Martin Luther King Day. So the offices will be closed, we meet the following week, which ends up the 27th of January 2025. So if you're all in agreement with that, that's what I would propose that we do.
I'm good with that.
Okay, I'm good with it too. So Mike, at the building department, could you kindly notify the applicant that we will meet with them again in January? We're holding open the public hearing. So.
I'll let them know what the comments too. So.
Right.
Right.
Though I guess theoretically, someone could offer a written comment during this time period.
That's correct.
So we would still entertain those remarks.
Okay.
Great. Yeah, thank you. If you could reach out to them, I'd appreciate that. Do you have any other questions for us to understand what we're doing? Yes. Okay.
I appreciate it.
Okay, very good. Right, so we'll meet, so they'll be here again in January, when we'll go over the new comments that were brought up. I've had an opportunity to hear that, and we'll take it from there. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for listening.
Have a
Thank
nice
you for helping.
holiday.
Oh, no problem.
You too. Thank you.
So now we're going to move on to number 2. And that is Froyo at 502 Pinewoods Avenue, the appeal. So I do not see their representative here either. There was no time limitation. Sometimes we say, that the public hearing starts at 6, the next one starts at 6:15, the next one starts at 6:30. That was not part of this agenda tonight. So we're going to kind of roll through the agenda. I think I just want to remark for the record the submissions that have been given to the zoning board members through the building department since we last met in November. And that would be one written letter that was received on December 5th by resident Jim, and Tachik, yep, at 387 Brunswick Road. The zoning board members are in receipt of his letter. Also, a submittal from the town attorney dated December 9th, 2024. Mark for the record that the board members are in receipt of that submittal. There is a printed letter by resident Mark Caruso, 5 Elmview Road, received at the building department on December 9th, 2024. The zoning board members are in receipt of that letter. There was a submittal from a Mr. Bill Shea representing National Grid that was delivered via email to the building department dated December 9th, 2024. The zoning board members are in receipt of that
I didn't understand
communication.
that at all.
what its relevance was to this.
Right, and I don't know if you want to speak on that now or wait until the applicant is here, but I haven't, what I think went on. So the second to last page, the attorney for the applicant asks,
So, yeah,
right, what she wanted some light shed on this correspondence. I think it stems back to the neighbor list from the notice of public hearing. National Grid is on that list
oh, okay,
as being
okay,
notified of the public hearing,
okay.
and I think this is their response. Right, it's a little irrelevant,
Right.
but that's how I think it was generated. And again, I think that's something that we can bring up because the applicant's attorney did question that as well. Feedback is big. Does anyone else have any other documents that we need to put into the record as being received by the zoning board members since our last meeting in November? That's what I have. Okay. So noting that, and knowing that there was some confusion on some of the submittals that we did receive, and of course, more deliberation on this application, I think that we need to hold it over for our next meeting, again, in January 22nd, 2025, and that it will be included on the agenda. Any other questions about that? How we're proceeding?
So, if I could just, some things to the board to consider. The public hearing was closed, and it was determined that that would be determined to be closed at the end of the written comment period, December 9th. Okay? Once the public hearing is closed, the board has 62 days to render a decision. So that is going to expire prior to the regular February meeting. No, prior to the
Yeah.
January will still be within the 62.
Okay,
If the board is looking to deliberate,
right.
This will be a determination of an appeal. You'll deliberate. Ultimately, there'll be a written decision. So I just want to make the board aware procedurally, there's a few things to accomplish during this 62-day period. And while we may not look forward to it, it may necessitate a special meeting to accommodate that schedule. One of the other things for the board to consider is if you would like to schedule any time to speak with me as your counsel on any legal questions you have, whether procedural or substantive, that can be scheduled and we can hold that as well. Those types of meetings are private sessions. They're not subject to the open meetings law because they are privileged communications between attorney and client. The client at this time being this board. So if you have any legal questions concerning the appeal, appeals are not something that routinely come before the board, but have in the past. If there are any questions regarding legal guidance, we can also consider holding a meeting to go into private session as well. So those are some things for the board procedure to think about.
So, I mean, if we have 62 days from when the public hearing closed, they don't show up for a reason.
It's still 62. We can reach out to the applicant, of course.
Well, can we still, like, discuss even though they're not here?
This was on the agenda this evening. You can certainly discuss that. I don't know what communication may have been had directly with the appellant or appellant's counsel prior to the meeting. And I'm not sure if the board has had sufficient time to fully read everything and digest the submissions at this point, but that's certainly within your discretion on when you want to deliberate. Generally, I think it's very good practice for a board to reach out to an appellant to make sure they're at least in attendance. Understand that the public hearing's been closed, there'll be no further public submissions. This is the time for the board to do its work, to deliberate. I think it's just good practice to always afford an applicant or an appellant notice so that they at least have the opportunity to listen to the deliberations. As an applicant or an appellant, if any question came up, it'd be available for the board, not for public comment, but directly as the appellant or the applicant. So I think it's just good policy and practice to make sure the applicant or appellant is aware that deliberations will be held, and if they choose to be present, that's within their discretion. Certainly recommended, but they should be put on notice.
I would agree with that. I would agree of postponing our deliberation tonight.
Well, I wasn't saying that we were going to deliberate about the decision, but if we had questions among us, among the board
Mhm.
to hash out.
I think on appeal, and again, that will be up to the board, it is advisable to first.
Hello. Glad you're here.
Oh, wait,
Welcome.
did you get my email by any chance? I don't know, someone tried, Wendy, we tried to email it, I was something that one, so sorry.
It's always advisable first to get advice from counsel on the process of considering the appeal, legal issues and procedures associated with the appeal. That would make sense for the first order of business. That will kind of guide you in your review of the materials, and then the board as a whole, in open session, would deliberate. And based on those discussions and deliberations, put together a proposed decision on the appeal for your review. Okay.
So like you said, Andy, this board does not regularly see appeals of this nature. And I know I always appreciate the legal guidance that you have lent to us in the past. So I would be interested in scheduling a meeting to review the legal guidance regarding this case. Anyone feel differently?
No, I agree. I think
No, I feel-
maybe before next month's meeting, that way we can determine if we're able to do it next month or if we have to do another special meeting after that.
That's a good time to do it, yeah. Is that okay with you, John? Is that okay with you, Andy?
Yes.
So the meeting starts at 6. Do you think 5:30 would be sufficient, 30 minutes? Do you want to do it 45 minutes to an hour? You want to wait?
You can certainly do that prior to your January 27th meeting. If the board wants time to digest the legal advice while you're reviewing the materials prior to the 27th, that's an option too. Or certainly, I'd give it a touch more than a half an hour.
Yeah.
Probably an hour before the regular meeting on the 27th. That's an option for you.
How your schedules are, if you have timing your schedules
I'm good for
to
that.
schedule a special meeting, or should we hold it when we're here anyway, an hour earlier?
Let me check to see if I'm available. See if my day is full. I'm fine with that.
How about you, John?
I'm always available.
Okay. Thanks for always being available. How about you?
I'm good.
Want to keep the same day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good with that.
All right, so 5 o'clock
Mhm.
on the 27th. And I'll notify Daryl of that.
Yeah, that makes it tough.
Right.
And what we'll do is we'll do a notice of the meeting commencing at 5 p.m. for purposes of going into private session to seek advice of counsel. The regular meeting to commence at 6.
And that'll be on the website?
Correct. When you go onto the homepage of the website, the calendar, you gotta
Yes.
click on that calendar date. That's where the notice is, so there's
Right.
not a separate
Yeah, right.
block.
Got it.
That's correct.
We'll leave it there for the website.
Is it?
We'll leave it there for the website.
Yeah, right.
Sure.
Okay, HE signs, are you taking a deep breath after fighting the traffic and
I'm here, sorry.
quite all right, I understand traffic. So while you were the first item on our agenda, and there were two residents here who spoke, because if you remember from the last time, it was held over the public hearing, so this is a continuation of the public hearing, and there were two residents who spoke. We can summarize what they said. And then pretty much because you were not here to hear that, we kept the public hearing open for January, at the January meeting, which is the 27th, for you to hear those comments, react to those comments, and give some more information, how you see, in regards to what they said. So basically, they're seeking a thinner pole. So the design that was most recently proposed is the 6-foot pole with the 96 sign on top, out front, with the 911 number 625 going horizontally underneath the sign, the blue sign. So a resident thought that while this is moving in the right direction, that maybe more could be done to minimize the obstruction at the base of the pole. She did a little informal survey of the poles in that neighborhood, and while this is 30 inches, what she saw were poles that were 12 inches. And a suggestion that she made, instead of the 911 number 625 going horizontally, maybe they could go vertically on that sign. So that is what was said during the public hearing comment. And like that, we're keeping it open, so written submittals could come in, email submittals could come in. And that we would look to our January meeting to kind of wrap it up at that point. Perhaps ask again if there are any public comments, close the public hearing portion of this application, and then if any information that the board members need, we would gain that from you, deliberate, and then we come to a decision. Yeah, so that's how it looks going forward.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you. And our third item on our agenda tonight is Atlas Renewables, Brunswick and Sikaway Solar, Shippey Lane, and Brunswick Road, seeking use variances. Good evening, how are you?
Fine.
Good, glad to hear it.
Some news that there has been some use coordination distributed by December 5th, some documentation. Unfortunately, this documentation has not been distributed or has not been distributed differently recently. So my expectation is that today you have not had the chance to review this information. If the board doesn't mind, we just wanted to briefly summarize the information that we submitted for the board more familiar and digestible. Basically, in the last board meeting, there were some questions about clients, yes or no, which type of clients, if this is subject to a public service commission or not, if these projects are to be considered public utilities, yes or no. You will see that we have produced an 8-page document that is 12 questions. It doesn't mean that these are questions coming from the board. It's some of them in some way coming from the board. The others that we thought it would be interesting, maybe for the board, to understand what they are proposing. when we start with this presentation with question number one, it's we want to frame what we are proposing. So what type of solar projects we are proposing? Community solar projects. And under the Public Service Commission, how this is classified? It is classified as a community distributed generation providers. So let's say typically it's residential, commercial, and then utility scale. And under the utility scale, there are different categories: community solar projects or larger scale solar projects. So we are under the utility scale community distributed generators. Mr. Maynard raised a very interesting question last time. Okay, I have solar module in my house. Why I'm not a generator? That's a very good question. Basically, it's because the intention of a residential home is not to generate for the usage of third parties, clients, customers. It's for the own consumption, and because of course, because of the size of the residential solar farms. It's up to 25 kilowatt, and certainly the utilities classifies how a residential, how a commercial, and how utility scale solar farm may impact on the grid, and therefore different studies, different calculations are required. You can imagine that the grid as a huge mountain, and to impact on this mountain, the 25 kilowatt or 5,000 kilowatt, certainly the impact is different. So the relations and applicable are different, and also the restrictions. In this question number one, we are also referring which are the stakeholders, which are the regulators and the stakeholders. Certainly the Public Service Commission, which as the name proposes, is the Commission for the Public Services. Those who are providing services to the public, water, gas, telecommunications, electricity, of course, are regulated by the Public Service Commission. And I said that under the New York Sun, the NISO, and in this case, National Grid. I would like to remind that National Grid is a private company. National Grid is a public utility, but it's a private company, similar than the projects that we are proposing. Atlas is a private company. National Grid is as well a private company. On question number two, we are proposing the yes or no, is Atlas a public utility company? And we are referring to the definition that the Public Service Law proposes, and we are also referring to the town of Brunswick Zoning Law definition. And in our views, certainly, the solar project that we are proposing falls into this category. Unspecified, which is our type of project, community solar project. Once understood that yes, this is a public utility company, then why to ask for a public utility standard use variance? Why not to ask for the traditional use variance? We are trying to address this question, or this answer, on question number 3. Why is Atlas applying for the public utility standard use variance? The next question, I will not go question by question. I will only remark those which I consider is interesting for the board. I will jump to question number 9. What are the details of the proposed energy connection of the solar farm to the substation? There was a question last time asking, okay, who pays and who owns? In order for these solar projects to connect to national grid, which I repeat is a private company, and there is a contract regulated by the state of New York between national grid private company and Atlas private company. So who owns and who is responsible of this additional equipment necessary to connect? In question number 9, we are addressing this potential question. We, as the sponsor developer, we are paying for this equipment to be installed by National Grid and to be owned by National Grid. That we pay for this equipment. In question number 10 and question number 11, it's the questions that, okay, who will be the clients of these solar farms? Differently from a residential solar farm, which will not have clients, or the client will be the owner of the house. Yes, the community solar projects have clients. And we have extracted from, you will see on the source, we have extracted this definition from the NYSERDA New York government website. So we are not adding our definitions, we are not adding our language. Most of these questions has an explanation, has a source, and the source is, in this case, the NYSERDA website. Similarly, on question number 11, how these customers will be invoiced. We explained that the invoice may come from National Grid, may come from the sponsor company. Here are the explanations from NYSERDA, consolidated billing or dual billing, depending on the purchase plan that the client has selected. And finally, on question number 12, we are addressing why these solar farms are proposed. In one of the previous questions, we are not contending that there is a shortfall in the servicing in the area. This is not our position. The position is not that the town of Brunswick, there is a shortfall at this moment. Although that in this question number 6, we are clarifying that always a solar farm, always a community solar project, closer to the substation gives stability, gives reliability to the services to the area. Therefore, it's an advantage. Question number 12 is a more broad question, and it refers to the state of New York solar law, introduced by 2019, and the goals for 2030 and the goals for 2040. I would say that by 2020, 2021, after the COVID-19, even the 2022, the capacity installed were quite in good progress, quite in good shape. And I remember have seen from NYSERDA some statements that things are going well, we'll get the targets for 2030. Well, that was not a mirage, but there was a lot of projects accumulated by 2020 because of COVID-19. It was not possible to install it, and the boom in 2021, 2022 was a huge one. But the reality is that at this moment, the 2030 goals, in my opinion, is that are very hard to achieve. And the state of New York will push for wherever corner in the state to try to get those goals. In question number 12, we are trying to, using again NYSERDA website, the description of how much 20 gigabytes, how much we need to get the goals by 2030. For the board to have an idea, a nuclear power plant, of course there are many types, but as a standard it's 1 gigabyte. 1 gigabyte, sorry, no 1 gigabyte. To build a nuclear power plant takes from 10 to 15 years. According to NYSERDA, by 2030, we need 20 gigabytes, which corresponds to 20 nuclear power plants. And we don't have 15 years to build at least one of them. So it will be a hard time from now to 2030 to accomplish the goals and to try to get the 70% of renewable energy goal by 2030. Anyway, this is the summary of this letter. If the board considers that there are some pending questions that we have not addressed correctly or we have missed, please let us know. Certainly we'll be happy to, if board consider to be here by January 27th. And in the meantime, if it's necessary other questions, please feel free to reach us and ask for these questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask one question while you're here, please? And it's question 11. For Atlas, do they use the consolidated billing method or the dual billing method?
It depends on the client. The client has the ability to select what they want to do, consolidated or dual billing. So any client will have the chance to say, no. I don't know what's it, but my understanding is that each client will say, no, I want to consolidate the billing, or no, I want to do it.
When you say the client, you mean the end user or National Grid?
End user. Would you, happy holidays in your business? We'll see you right in February.
Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Kiefer, 22 Grange Road. Good evening. So you have a lot of things to show us, is that right?
We do. Is it okay for us to present some things to show you?
Certainly, of course.
So ultimately, we took some photos of the house as it looked as we purchased the home. We also took the liberty of putting some colored photos together. We kind of goofed, we didn't bring enough copies. We have some uncolored. Maybe you can share a color.
Sure, of course.
Color is a lot simpler for us to review. I think it'd be better off just to share that one. because
Yeah, certainly, of
this can be
course.
a little confusing.
Just upstairs and downstairs.
So ultimately, still trying to understand the whole zoning situation. I've been building for 40 years.
Sure.
I've been Going
Yeah, so,
to battle with planning boards for
Yeah,
a
no,
very
no.
long time, but zoning wise, it's out of my wheelhouse.
so listen, I think we can work together
That's
to
so
make it
hopeful.
easier than you're projecting it could be.
Okay,
So, just want to jump to the chase,
okay.
you kind of can.
So ultimately, William Kiefer, purchased this property for my son, who's also a builder, to build this house for his family, of 5 at this moment,
Mhm.
right? We have friends with the previous owner. Grown up, my kids grew up with, this is my daughter's kid. He's been trying to sell the property commercially for numerous years to no avail, no one had any interest. And someone was looking for properties, one thing led to another, and it just seemed like a really good idea. To buy this place, to build it for you, it puts his kids in Tamarack School District, was the most important thing to us. Within the drawings that we provided, the pink is 100% existing of what the house is. The green represents the partial additions that we're proposing. And if you look at the photos at the rear of the building, there's an existing addition that is, I'm gonna say at least 45% of the addition that we're trying to put to the rear of the house. And if you actually took the roof footprint, it's almost the whole rear of the house. So within the green, you know, we're trying to pull the whole dilapidated back portion of the house off because it's dilapidated. At the end of the day, we're looking to restore the house as is, you know, siding as is, still make it look like the 1870s farmhouse that it was built to be, and just convert it to a single-family home that can support my son, his wife, 3 children, and that's pretty much the logistics of it.
Yeah, good, I appreciate your summary of your project. So, the zoning board members received this info package. And just to confirm, on the first page, the part that is highlighted in purple is the project that you're proposing.
That is the new addition that we're proposing.
Okay, yeah, just to confirm, yeah.
First page doesn't really.
It doesn't represent what's being torn off the house.
Okay,
That's why we put the colors one together. We forgot to count.
that's priority, right? I understand. So, with the help of the building department, I if we just want to review what we went over in our last meeting in November, and what we deliberated on, according to the minutes, and I'll read it because I think it's instructive on how we should proceed. So, Mr. McDonald stated that the building department had determined that an area variance is what would be required. Attorney Gilchrist made it clear that the ZBA could not interpret the Brunswick zoning law as that was the jurisdiction of the building department. And that the record and the application must be clarified before the matter could move forward before the zoning board of appeals. And the application, that's where we are now, I guess. That we need to clarify for the record that this application is for an area variance.
No.
Use variance.
Okay, so, before we go down that route. This is not a battle, just kind of like airing it out, yeah, not here to battle. If you see it through, we're gonna make it.
Get you there.
Yeah. Right. So I was a little confused after reading the November minutes, where it was determined that this was an area variance application. Why we received then this beautiful design packet, and then the application filled out as a use variance. So stop me right now, and I just want you to hear the difference between seeking a use variance and seeking an area variance, okay? Just take the time out. So I'm gonna ask Andy Gilchrist, who knows how to say things so beautifully, to describe to the applicants the process that's involved in seeking a use variance and seeking an area variance. If you could, sir.
Wow, how about that? So this is in general, okay? This board sits, and as the name suggests, it hears appeals, and those appeals generally are either for use or area variances. They are seeking, such as yourself, an applicant is seeking relief from the otherwise applicable zoning requirements in the zoning code. If an applicant is looking to use their property in a way that's not allowed in the zoning code. Easy example, I want to run a commercial use in a residential district, but commercial is not allowed there. Then you are seeking relief from the use restrictions, and that gives rise to a use variance. Area variances are different. An area variance is for the use of property that is consistent with allowable uses of the zoning district, but it just doesn't meet the area and bulk requirements. Could be setbacks, could be height, could be total lot coverage, things that are generally area related on the area and bulk table. The use is fine. It's allowed in the zoning code for the district in which the property is located, but you're just not meeting the area restrictions. But if the property owner chooses to say, I'd like to do something, a use, that's not provided as an allowable use in that particular zoning district. I want relief from that, then you need a use variance. Okay? Because when you're seeking an area variance, the underlying use is consistent with the zoning district, which is another way of saying it's consistent with the types of uses that the municipality, here the town of Brunswick, envisions for that area and thinks are appropriate. But I just need a little relief from the area limits. Those have certain standards which the law in general finds are a little easier to meet than a use variance. Because again, the underlying theory is the municipality would like to see that use in that location. It's appropriate. but we understand the size issues. So there are certain standards, legal standards that are applied to a use variance, strike that, to an area variance. But when you get to a use variance, you're really asking to do something which the municipality has determined through a zoning code is not appropriate for that location. The municipality has determined that other uses are appropriate there, not the one you want to do. And so in that case, you want relief from the use restrictions and you ask for use variance. The law looks at those as being a much more stringent, a more difficult standard to meet. And usually the one factor that is very difficult for an applicant on a use variance to meet is the economic factor. It's called dollars and cents proof. And what that means an applicant needs to show is that for all of those uses that the municipality think are appropriate there, I can't get a reasonable economic return. So it's not right for me to have to do those. I need to do something else. That lack of economic proof is often the difficult thing for an applicant seeking a use variance to meet. Because in general, chances are the uses that the municipality has said are appropriate there will garner, usually, a reasonable, not the maximum, but a reasonable economic return. Use variances carry, therefore, a much more stringent review standard. But that's the general difference. Use, you want to do something different in terms of using the property that the municipality thinks is appropriate there. Area is, oh, you're consistent with the use. You're just not meeting the bulk standards. With that general background, I'll give it back to the chair.
Yeah, thank you, right, and we can dive into that deeper if we need to. Right now, what I want to do is read the statement by the building department that you're appealing. So, like Attorney Gilchrist said, we're here to hear appeals. So you wanted to do something, building department said, no, you cannot. He said, but we really want to. Okay, come to the zoning board of appeals. Let them hear it out and let them, give you the determination. So let me read what he wrote, what was written. Please be advised, so this was dated October 31st, 2024. Please be advised that unfortunately, your building permit application for rehabbing and an addition at 22 Grange Road, Troy, New York, has been denied at this residence. Has been denied, as this residence is located in a business-like district and is therefore an existing non-conforming structure. The town of Brunswick Zoning Law 180-104-E2 states that no non-conforming structure shall be enlarged, extended, or altered. I think that this is where we go. So I think that as an applicant, you're coming before us because they're saying that you cannot enlarge or extend or alter a non-conforming structure. That's the way that we go. So in going this route, you're seeking an area variance, not a use variance. Because like in this letter from the building department, there's no mention of use. It is the size difference. So what you want to do is, so we see this all the time in Sickaway. You've driven through Sickaway, the tiny little houses on tiny little lots that was plotted out years ago, 20s, 30s, 40s. Someone who comes in and says, hey, we really love living in Sickaway. We really love our tiny house, but we would love to have a porch out on front. And the building department says, you can't do that because if you do that, you're in the front setback, you're a non-conforming structure because you're already in the front setback, come and get an area variance. So that's kind of what you're doing in this big, beautiful house that you're rehabbing. You're coming to the building department and you're saying, hey, I'd like to just build on to what we already have. We're not expanding our footprint. And the building department say, can't do that. It's a non-conforming structure because of the way that the zoning was changed in 2017. So we can go deeper into, use variance and what is required and an area variance and what's required. But from what I see here, I would encourage you to go with an area variance application. What that would mean would be real quick, what would that would mean for you would be, to using the beautiful submittals that you already have in, just going back and, resubmitting the application. I don't think that you would need to pay another fee. That doesn't
No.
make any sense at all.
Actually, we
So
would
there'd be
refund.
no money incurred, no any more money incurred, it would just be resubmitting area variance application, right, so that you had a question.
That sounds great to me.
Yeah. So we're not fighting you.
I don't feel like anybody is.
Yeah, good, right, because we're not.
And what's why, I don't know if I need legal representation, I'm thinking to myself, it seems to be pretty straightforward, you know?
It is, and if you were here at any other month, you would have seen other applicants like yourself in front of the board, you would have seen the public hearing that we hold.
Sure.
Right now, you have a solar facility in front of you, you have sign, you're not seeing what other residents of the town of Brunswick who have done what you have done, in the last 12 months. So, yeah,
We'll see next month for an area.
see you next month for an area variance. Sounds
Very
good.
much.
Okay, any other comments that you'd like to make to the applicants?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good night. Yeah, have a
He
night.
was, and if I could,
Yeah.
just in terms of procedure, be aware, once the area variance application and your responses are then submitted and reviewed, the board will deem presumably the application complete. That there is a necessary public hearing, so that would need to be in February.
Yeah.
So there'll be some process ahead.
Right.
So as a suggestion, you know, we've gone and seen the direct neighbors. You know, would it be helpful to have them here, or that's?
They're going to get notice of when the public, they'll get a direct
Okay.
mailing of when the public hearing's going to be. If they want to come in and provide support, if that's what you're indicating, you're in support of this, they can do that personally, or they can do that in writing.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, very.
Happy holidays.
Thank you. Are there any other items for new business you'd like to bring up? Otherwise, I need a motion to adjourn tonight's hearing by member second. That's good. Thank you, Tricia. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
All right,
Good night.
good night.